What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Eclectic Collector channel. So today I want to do a video talking about mangaka who essentially do things independently, and there's four creators here that I want to talk about today with you all. It's four completely different series. One of them has done American comics and has also done manga, and this time around we're actually going to talk about an American comic by this creator, but I'm also going to talk about some of the manga work that they've done. And we're going to go down the line talking about each of these four creators, and I'm going to show you what essentially is their other works, like besides the manga work they've done. They also do like art and whatnot. They have Instagrams where they do art, and typically when I do, like, this is a mangaka spotlight video, and whenever I do these videos I usually try to do it about a specific creator. Like, I've only done one so far on this channel, and that was about Tatsuki Fujimoto, and I've been wanting to do another mangaka spotlight video, which I have talked about for a long time, which is a Junji Ito mangaka spotlight video. But then I also want to do more of them about other creators. Like, I want to do one about Naoki Urasawa at some point. But with this specific video, we're going to talk about four different creators, and we're going to kick this thing right off by talking about Zombiemakeoutclub. So this is Zombiemakeoutclub, which is the overall banner under which this series takes place, and the first part of this series is called Death Wish. And the creator of this manga is a person named Peter Richardson, and they also do like clothing, art, stickers, and the art style is really wild. It's like really unique. There's like something that's like that really stands out and is, for the most part, apparent that you're reading, or that you're looking at something that this specific creator has made. And it's something that I followed them for a while now, and like I love their artwork. And I've had Zombiemakeoutclub for a while as well. I picked this up and I don't even know what haul. I legit don't know. I probably had it for over a year at this point. And I also just picked up this one right here. This is the follow-up to Death Wish. This is Death Head. I haven't started this yet, but I really look forward to it because I loved Death Wish. Yeah, like, I like the character a lot for this series, which is this girl right here. Pretty much it follows her, and at one point in time she unalives herself, and a bunch of weird stuff happens in this story that I don't want to get too into, but parts of it are a little convoluted, but it's not, it doesn't take, I don't think it'll ruin your experience with the story. It definitely didn't ruin my experience with it. One complaint that I do have is that it introduced all the characters on like the first page, just said like who they all are, but since that point in the story, it really doesn't do a good job of, reintroducing them and, telling you their names, which I think would have been a better way to go about it, because like I kept finding myself, flipping back to the front of the manga to try to remember who they were, and doing that, for the most part, for me, it takes me out of it. It takes me out of the story. And, I mean, I've got, other than that, that's the only real complaint I have. Other than that, like, I have nothing but praise for it. The art, for the most part, in Zombiemakeoutclub really blew me away. I love that there's whole panels and whatever, whole pages where like you just see characters, and when you in just seeing them, I'm one of those people, like, I believe show don't tell. Like, one of my favorite creators, I talk about this dude all the time. Shuzo Oshimi is phenomenal at show don't tell. And I feel like this manga does that as well. Like, there's scenes where like there's no text at all, but you kind of get the idea of what's going on, and it paints the picture perfectly. What I mean? Like, what's going on, and for the most part, like, there's this thing that while I was reading this kind of made me feel like, with just the way some of the art is framed, it makes me feel like a video game, like one of those games where like you'll see a character pop up and there will be text. You know what I mean? Like the character pops up and there's text, but you just see the character, like the silhouette or whatever. You just see the character like standing there, and then there's text at the bottom, but their lips don't move or anything. And that's kind of what this made me think of in certain scenes. It felt like it could be, sections of like a video game where like you just see the character standing there. But like those little criticisms that I had, about it being kind of weird, in certain parts, it is a little choppy, kind of jumps from scene to scene. sometimes and jumps to new characters that we haven't really been introduced to yet in the story. You know, like they're introduced in the beginning where it shows you who they are or whatever and their preferred pronouns. But for the most part, like they're not like introduced within the story to an extent where like you kind of, you know, are meeting them, you know, like where they're being introduced in some manner or another. They just kind of appear, and that kind of like threw me off a little bit. But for the most part, like I have nothing but praise for the art. She kind of looks like Uma Thurman in Pulp Fiction, and it seems like this creator does have an affinity for film. And being a person myself that like I love film, you know, it definitely spoke to me. And there's definitely like a reference to like high tension in there that I thought was great. There's like 3 stories in here. This first one, which is Death Wish, and then there's like 2 more. There's another one in there called Summer Death, which I really liked, which features like a crow or whatever. I thought that was really well done. For the most part, this is a really fun, gory read if you want something that is not going to take itself super seriously. That's just like over-the-top gore. But I definitely highly recommend checking this thing out. It's so much fun, dude. It's super gory. If you're into either of those things, just like super gory stories that are like just a ton of fun, I think you'll like this. Support this creator if you're down, if you want to check more of this art out. And like I said, there's 2 volumes of this thing. There's this one, and this one literally just came out like I think last year, either last year or in January. I'm not sure if it came out in January or if it came out last year, but yeah, this is definitely somebody that I really look forward to seeing more of in the future and seeing, you know, what this creator is going to do. And I want to talk about, you know, independent creators, and this is somebody that I definitely want to talk about. And I'll link the Instagram, I'll link the personal website where you can check out this creator's art and support them, follow them, whatever, you know, and do the same thing for everybody else, for all the other creators that I talk about on this video. And if there's any creators that you like that are essentially like independent creators and you want to shout them out, go ahead and do so in the comments. So if my voice sounds a little weird, it's that I'm wearing Invisalign. Like you see, like I got like a rubber band connecting my top teeth to my bottom teeth, and I finally bit the bullet and just got Invisalign, dude. So my voice probably sounds really weird. Like I can feel it, like when I talk, I can feel like my voice sounds a little odd. But we're not here to talk about me. We're going to talk about some manga, and what we're going to talk about next is Udon by Mako-Vice. This thing is so much fun, dude. I loved every second of this. This is one of my favorite reads that I'm going to bring up today. Kind of reminds me of like Terrifier 2. There's a scene in Terrifier 2 that I don't think I'm going to show you because it is super gory, and I don't want to do that. But you can look it up yourself if you haven't seen it. But there's a scene in Terrifier 2 if you want to look it up. It's probably on YouTube. I would probably type in like a bedroom scene, Terrifier 2 or something, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Or even Pig Destroyer, Prowler in the Yard. That's one of my favorite bands ever. Band called Pig Destroyer. If you look up their album art, if you look up the album art for their album, Prowler in the Yard, that's another thing that like the Terrifier scene kind of reminded me of. And I wouldn't even be surprised if that scene in Terrifier was inspired by Pig Destroyer's Prowler in the Yard. And the reason I bring those 2 things up is that this story reminded me so much of that. And what's funny is like all the stuff that I'm talking about today for this creator video, it's all like really gory. It's all really brutal. It's all over the top, and I love every second of every one of these. So that's why I wanted to talk about these creators. And Mako-Vice is a creator that I've followed for a really long time, and I feel really fortunate to have this. This is supposed to be like a misprint, but I'm not really sure that it is a misprint because I didn't see anything that was wrong, or maybe it's just because I didn't know what the original was supposed to look like that I didn't notice, you know, anything wrong with this copy. But I really like this a lot. It's kind of like, there's this thing in Japanese called muku or whatever, which is essentially like a mukbang. And if you don't know what a mukbang is, it's like when somebody sits down in front of the camera and just eats like a ton of food, like way more food than you should ever eat in your life. And there is a famous person that I'm not going to name, but he's on YouTube who does mukbangs. And he was a really skinny dude at one point in time, and he's become a super big person now. And yet I'm not going to say too much about him. I don't want to even shout him out or anything. But that was my introduction to mukbangs, because I had no idea what the hell that even was until I saw a video, you know, talking about his descent, you know, through his life or whatever. But pretty much that's what the point of this is like this girl right here, one of our leads, does muku, and then there's like a glossary or whatever of words that are used in this story, and muku is one of them. And then buriko, I think, is the other word, which is like a girl who acts cute on camera. So there's a combination of the two. A girl acts cute on camera while, you know, eating muku or whatever, doing a muku. So she's acting cute and, you know, eating a ton of food. And this girl right here has chopsticks that I guess are like super special chopsticks that like she can essentially turn a human being into udon. That's pretty brutal. That's pretty gruesome. That's so much fun though, dude. I loved this thing. It's super short, man. It's a super quick read. And I love Mako-Vice. I think Mako-Vice is one of the best artists that I've seen. You know, like pretty much art. I think t-shirts. I don't know if anything else. I'm not really sure, but yeah, I'll link the personal website. I'll link the Instagram or whatever. Definitely, you should follow the Instagram because the art that this person creates is unreal. And I really wanted to get my hands on Sashimi, which is the follow-up to Udon, and they're like contained stories. They're essentially like one-shots. And yeah, Sashimi is the follow-up to Udon. Hopefully I'm able to get my hands on it. But yeah, this is a ton of fun. This is a great little kind of like a one-shot. And I think there's still misprint copies available if you want to get your hands on it just to own it, because I think it's definitely worth owning. It's definitely worth supporting this creator and supporting, you know, just independent creators. And yeah, dude, I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to start like spoiling it, and I want to keep this video kind of short because my last one was almost like 2 hours long. So yeah, dude, I definitely highly recommend checking out Mako-Vice. Just check out that Instagram, and I feel like you'll fall in love once you do. So yeah, that's Udon by Mako-Vice. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about Daddy Do Dead. This is a story that I absolutely loved. This dude is from Lithuania. All right, I'm going to say this dude's name, and I hope that I don't just absolutely butcher it. So this creator's name is Arunas Murnikovas, and I'm so sorry if I just completely butchered this creator's name. It was not on purpose. I just wanted to say the name, but I'll put it right here anyway, just because like I'm so terrible at pronouncing certain names. But Daddy Do Dead is a monument. Like, I don't know what else to say about this thing. I kind of wanted to do a let's talk about this manga because I just loved it so damned much. Alright, so this is going to be like 90% praise and like 10% criticism. And everything I say that is a criticism is legitimately just that, a criticism, and it's not, you know, it's not a dig in any way, shape, or form against anyone. Anytime I say anything that like I say anything like this or anything like that, it's literally just a criticism, and it's not, you know, meant to be like taken super seriously. But for the most part, let's get all the good things that I want to say about the story out of the way. This reminds me of like Chainsaw Man. This reminds me of like when I first started reading Chainsaw Man, like the first part of the first arc of Chainsaw Man, where it's just absolute chaos, you know. And Chainsaw Man, for the most part, in part 2, has kind of lost a lot of steam, but in the beginning of it, it was, for me, one of the best stories that I personally ever read, and it's still a story that I keep up with, but that's kind of what this reminded me of. But for the most part, I feel like this creator has essentially created their own universe and, you know, created the rules by which the characters in this story interact, and by the rules by which they're governed they are governed essentially by a certain set of rules. And I feel like this story does a pretty solid job of, you know, sticking to the parameters of the rules that are set for this world. The only thing I will say that is a little off is like the writing in certain parts is a little wonky. It's like it could have used a little more editing, I think. But I mean, that's like a minor complaint that I have, you know. It's like, but it is, you know, something that kind of threw me off a few times because some of the dialogue just felt unnatural. But I mean, it's not a deal breaker in any way, shape, or form. It did take me out of it in certain areas, but for the most part, I loved it, dude. I loved Daddy Do Dead. The characters involved in it are a ton of fun. Like, I don't think there's a single character in the story that isn't just absolutely a blast to hang out with. Our lead right here, this dude named Ivas, has a friend who's like a goat boy or something, and there's like different people, like there's animal sorts of people that exist in this world that have like animal heads, and then they have like regular like human hands and whatnot. So we pretty much follow him and like his partner named I think Alyssa is what her name is, and we follow them as they go on like missions and whatnot, and they're essentially like assassins. And then there's also like this bigger world event that happened called like the distortion or something, which kind of reminds me of like Chainsaw Man again, you know, with like the gun double. Like if you've read Chainsaw Man, you know, like with the gun double, what the gun double did in Chainsaw Man, and how that's like a big part of the first arc of the story, you know, is the gun double. And that's kind of what the distortion in this reminds me of. It reminds me of that. And I mean, for the most part, like, I don't want to like start spoiling too much of the story because I want people to read it, and you can get your hands on this. I don't know if he still sells them himself or not, but I think you could probably get them from somewhere else. But they're definitely worth checking out. This is a story that's definitely worth checking out. I really highly look forward to volume 2, dude, because like I want to go back, dude, and just reread this whole damned volume because like I just loved like every second of it. You know, like I do have those complaints about like the writing being a little wonky, but the artwork is just absolutely gorgeous. It's so stellar. And this is somebody that I think we need to look out for in the future. I really hope that this can go somewhere. Like, I'd love to see an anime of this story, dude. I wish that this would get picked up, you know, in like a large scale. Like, a lot of people would find out about it and read it so that it gains a lot of traction, because I don't want this to be one of those things that just kind of like gets swept, you know, like that is underrated. Because it is definitely deserving of a ton of praise, dude. If I could give this thing an award, if I could give this story an award, dude, I would 100% would. And like, I wanted to do a video about it, and maybe I will eventually, you know, do a video just talking about Deady Do Dead. But I love the power system in this. There's this thing called Power of Nature, and it kind of reminds you of like Nen, you know, in Hunter x Hunter. And I think it's like a pretty straightforward for the most. Actually, no, this is a lot more straightforward than Nen is, because that has like a ton of subcategories. But I'm just saying it kind of reminded me of that. But the power system, power of nature or whatever, it's like a thing where like there's like a buildup of adrenaline in your body or whatever, or I think heat or something, and you release it in like really intense ways. And there's this really incredible fight that took up like a nice chunk of the last part of the story. I won't get too much into it, but there's a fight. It's like a fight between like 4 characters, and it kind of reminded me of like a fight in JJK. And the way that it's drawn is so beautiful, dude. Like, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where you want to keep flipping the pages, because it is just the amount of detail that this mangaka put into this story, into writing that fight scene, dude. It is just, you know what I mean? Like, it's so amazing, dude. And I could just sit here and slobber all over this damn story, bro, and I would 100% make a 30-minute video just going on and on and on about Deady Do Dead. But yeah, this is probably right near, hands down, my favorite thing that I read of this whole thing, dude, that I'm talking about. And he definitely has like this really wild like power reserve, and where it leaves off, like, it left me wanting more. And I think that's a really great thing about a story, dude. If a story leaves you wanting more, to me, that is a good story. And definitely Deady Do Dead knocked it out of the park. This is something that I was really looking forward to. I pre-ordered this as well from the creator, directly from the creator. And if you did pre-order directly from the creator, it came with like a sticker, you know, that says Deady Do Dead, and then like it came with like a personalized thank you card. So here, I just want to show them to you. So yeah, it came with this sticker right here, and then it came with a personalized thank you card. So it says thank you, Oscar, and that's pretty cool, man. Like, I like that extra touch, and just to completely, you know, to have that nice personal touch, you know, I think there's a certain level of humility that I thought was really cool, man. And this creator seems like just like a genuinely cool person to be around. If they can create this, I keep wanting to call it a monument, because I definitely think it is a monument, for being self-released and for just absolutely knocking it out of the park with the self-release first volume. But this creator's also done other works. I haven't read them. I think he's done like 2 other works, but like I said, I haven't read them. I don't know where to find them. They're probably on his website or whatever. And yeah, I'll link his website and his Instagram or whatever in the description if you want to check them out. And yeah, dude, if you can, I'd say support all 3 of these creators, because the amount of just amazing detail that each of them has put together, you know, and not being backed by like a studio, and not being, you know, on Shonen Jump or any of that stuff, you know, being people that love manga, that love to create, or, you know, in some capacity, you know, they just love creating, they love bringing stories to life. They've created just amazing things. And Deady Do Dead, I would love for the story to blow up, you know, for a lot of people to check it out, because it is such an such a wonderful read, dude, and I love the art. There are certain panels in this manga that just absolutely blew me the hell away, where I just kind of like sat there for a second and just kind of like went over all the lines of detail and whatnot and was amazed. And I don't know how this person packed so much detail into this thing, dude. It's definitely a monument, and yeah, I highly recommend checking out Daddy Do Dead. Alright, the last thing that we're going to talk about here today is by one of my favorite creators ever. I've talked about this dude before on the channel. One of the earliest videos that I ever did on this channel was a review of his series People Chew. And what we're going to talk about today is Felipe Smith's Death Metal Zombie Cop. So this had a lot of delays. I don't want to get too into that, because I don't want to start, throwing this dude's personal life into this video. Like, I don't want to throw anybody's personal lives, into anything, but there's a certain thing that happened to this creator, and it kind of pushed the release of this thing back by like a few years or more than that. I don't even know how many years, for a long time. I think maybe 5 years or more or something like that. And I don't want to say, what happened, because I don't want to start, putting people's personal lives in just on blast or whatever. But unfortunate things happened, and this got pushed back by a ton, and I'm just happy to own it. You know what I mean? Like, I supported this when it was a Kickstarter. I supported it then, and I now have this physical copy, which I will cherish for the rest of my life. Because I love Felipe Smith, dude. He and a friend of his, I think the dude's like a DJ or something. I'm not really sure what the other guy is, and I don't want to like sound disrespectful. I really don't. I've never heard of him before. The other dude that he does like a podcast with, I've never heard that other guy. And like I said, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I do love that podcast. They're like both super entertaining, and I'll link that. I'll link his socials or whatever, his website, and I'll link that podcast that he does with this other dude, because it's really entertaining, and they talk about like Japanese stuff, and a roommate that Felipe Smith had, and just a lot of different stuff like that. And he's just a person that like I've really admired for a really long time. I did a video, like I said, like almost 3 years ago now, when I first created the channel, about People Chew, which I have right here. So this is a comic, and People Chew is a manga, and this is a manga series that this dude wrote initially in Japanese, and then I think he translated himself into English. I can't remember, but yeah, he wrote this initially in Japanese. He'd learned Japanese at one point in time in his life, because the way that I had initially heard about him was that, like, he'd learned Japanese because he wanted to go to Japan, and essentially like create his own manga. But through watching the podcast, that he did with his friend, he kind of like gives more of a rounded reason for learning Japanese, and like the way that the origin of him wanting to learn Japanese, and having a Japanese roommate and whatnot. And it's really cool. So I mean, if anything, I'd say go check out his podcast so that you can see like a much better explanation of why he learned Japanese. But it was through him and through this manga, and through reading this manga, it definitely like made me want to learn Japanese even more, because this goes into like otaku culture, and just people that are like really toxic within that culture. And it also goes into like American comic nerds that are also like really toxic. Not that I'm saying like that American comic book nerds are toxic. I'm just saying like there are people, like subsects of people, that are like toxic, and that's the same deal with anime and with manga and with movies and with like music and whatnot. There's always those people that are like super toxic and whatnot, and this story does a pretty good job of lampooning those people, and of lampooning people that like seem to think that Japan is like an anime wonderland, because those people exist, and unfortunately they exist. And this story does such a great job of just absolutely taking the meanest shots at those people and calling them out, dude. And this is my introduction to Felipe Smith, and I have all 3 volumes of the series, and dude, I love this guy so much because he does not care. He's got just like an unfiltered way of telling a story. And he also did Robbie Reyes, Ghost Rider Zombie Reyes. That's his creation. He also did some like work on like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think he had a run of that at one point. And Death Metal Zombie Cop is the newest thing that he's done, and I love I love this thing. It's super short. It feels like it's like part one of a bigger narrative. I don't know if he's ever gonna, expand upon it and make more. I hope he does, because I would love to see where this goes. But pretty much, like, we follow this dude right here, who is like a rookie cop. He's like in his 40s, and he wants like a new, I guess, like lease on life or something, and he wants to become a cop. It's like a dream of his. And this woman right here, Rhonda, I think is what her name is essentially like leaving the force. And then we got this dude right here, who is a zombie, but not just any kind of zombie. He's a death metal zombie cop. Yeah, pretty much. Like I said, it follows these characters right here, and it doesn't really go too far into it, because it's like the opening, and it just kind of introduces the characters, and it introduces this psychopath right here, who was like, has one of the best introductions. Kind of reminds me of like Carpenter Brute a little bit, like the album cover for Carpenter Brute. That's what I think of when I see this dude. I forgot what the album is called, but I'll put the album cover somewhere on here. And pretty much in like, Felipe Smith's style, which is like super adult, super gory. This story is a ton of fun. I've read it like, I think maybe like 3 times now. I've read it digitally, and then, since I had this physical, I read it again, and I really want to see more of these characters. I don't know if he's kind of over this, given that like it was forever ago, like years ago, that he initially started the Kickstarter for this, and this is actually like a Kickstarter exclusive edition. You can kind of see it right there. I think he's got digital copies of this on his personal website, and there might even be like physical copies that you could probably buy from him directly on his his website. And it even has like a thank you, and it even has his signature right there, and I thought it was really cool. And at the at the back of this book, it's got like the thank you to all the backers that supported this thing. I'm sure I'm in there somewhere, because I did support it. And if he ever does, Felipe Smith ever does another Kickstarter to fund, like another volume 2 of Death Metal Zombie Cop, I'm 100%, there for it. I love, when he's introduced, like when he actually becomes like Death Metal Zombie Cop, like he's pouring coffee into like his eye socket, and then he's like chugging donuts or whatever, and he takes like a coffee maker with him. It's so chaotic, dude. It's so much fun. And yeah, this dude has such an adult style of storytelling, and his characters are so over the top, so just outrageous. Everything that this dude does, to me, is gold, and I will continue to support him, through watching that podcast, and through, buying the stuff that he does. I actually just bought MBQ. Like, I never bought MBQ for whatever reason, but I just bought volumes 1 and 3 of MBQ. Volume 2 is going to be a little more difficult to come by, because much like People Chew, it's out of print. And yeah, I've got all of People Chew right here. This is volume 2 right there, and then that's volume 3 right there. And yeah, dude, I love creators that aren't afraid to take risks and that do their own thing. And I feel like everyone that I talked about here today, from Felipe Smith to this dude right here, who made Daddy Do Dad, which I love this story so much, to Udon right here by Mako-Vice, and then and also right here, Death Wish through the Zombiemakeoutclub banner, by Peter Richardson. I feel like every one of these creators is doing something really special and really unique, and not being afraid to tell the story that they want to tell, and not be essentially told by a publisher or by whoever how they can tell their story, or how they're allowed to tell their story. Because that is something that happens when you get involved with publishers, is that they will inevitably have control over a lot of things, and the money that your story makes doesn't go to you, it goes to them. And I am a creative person. I've published books independently. I have a publisher who is essentially like a friend of mine, and he publishes my books, but essentially it's still, for the most part, independent publishing. This is a channel where, for the most part, like, I criticize other people's works and whatnot, and for the most part it's usually good criticisms. I really don't make videos to trash talk anybody. This isn't the kind of channel where like I'm gonna make a video like hating on stories. I only make videos about things that I actually like and that I actually want to talk about. And as somebody that is a creative person, I like seeing independent creators. I like seeing people that do their own thing, that release their own stories. And I think that's something that's really special. You know, it's something really unique. I mean, if you want to be published by somebody, that's cool. I'm not selling anybody that like you should be self-published, that you should avoid, you know, getting published. I mean, if you want to be published, if you are published, that's cool. I'm not hating on it in any way. I'm just saying I just like seeing that, you know, like seeing people, you know, take things into their own hands and self-release. I think that's a really cool, really empowering thing to do. And I've got nothing but love for mangaka. I've got a ton of manga, as you can see. If you've never watched any of my videos, like I do so many videos about manga. I'm always talking about different creators. I always like to bring creators to the forefront. I always like to talk about different people because it's such a passion of mine, you know, to talk about manga and to talk about film and to talk about different things. And that's the reason that this channel exists, you know, is to shout out creators and to there's people that are finding out about certain mangaka through this channel and certain manga series through this channel. And that's the biggest thing for me, is that I want to have that space where we can talk about manga and we can talk about creators. And that's what it's about. You know, it's about that. I don't think that it's so much about me, and I'm kind of like the force, you know, that exists, that, you know, puts these things in front of you. And for the most part, I've been fortunate enough that, you know, there's a lot of subs that introduce me to things, you know, that introduce me to stories that I've never heard of, that I would have probably never heard of, and if not for, you know, somebody saying, hey, you should check this out, and I end up checking it out, and it becomes something that, you know, I end up loving, you know what I mean? So yeah, definitely, dude. Recommend manga to people, show people manga, don't gatekeep anything, show people different stuff, man. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I feel like the more people become versed in different stories and different creators, I think it'll bring new life to things that aren't just popular, you know, not just rehashing the same popular stories over and over. You know, let's bring life and light to creators that are being essentially like pushed down the ladder by more popular creators. Let's bring those creators to light. Creators that are at the bottom, let's bring them up and show more works by independent creators and by, you know, creators that don't have like a huge following. Though these creators all, for the most part, have massive followings, you know, because their art is incredible and their art speaks for itself and it's amazing. But then there's also other creators that have incredible art, that don't have any subs, that don't have any followers, that should be followed, that should, you know, be shown more love, you know. And that's something that I want to see, you know. Hopefully other people want to see that as well. And yeah, shout people out, man. If there's creators that you like, mangaka that you like, shout them out. Either here for me to check out, or for anybody else that's watching this video to check out, or even on your Instagram. If you're on Instagram, if you're on Twitter, wherever you're on, shout those people out, you know, so that other people can check them out. And yeah, man, there's definitely a lot of positivity that could be, you know, going around, that should be going around. And I always do that. I always share art, I always share accounts and whatnot on my Instagram, because I am a believer that we should, you know, for the most part, you know, shout each other out and, you know, build a community. And that's what it's ultimately about. I don't want there to be like any gatekeeping anywhere, and I definitely don't do that. I'm super open. Anytime I'm reading anything and anybody asks me, hey, what are you reading, I'll tell you right away what I'm reading, you know, because I don't gatekeep a single thing. So that's all I got for you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I know this video got kind of long, but you know, this is something that I'm personally super passionate about, and I'm going to talk about it no matter how long the video gets. I'm going to give my opinions on a thing. So yeah, please enjoy the rest of your days. I hope that you had a blast, because I had a ton of fun talking about this stuff with you all. I hope that everything is going well in your life. I hope everyone you love is also doing well. Please take care of yourselves. Until next time that we meet.
Yo, it's himself, the Shadowrunners clique, aka Sleep Allah. Take you on a mental and live for one day, y'all. Sheets, y'all. Guns, y'all. Yo, who got the guns, who got the coke? Hustling them through like big punch cholesterol before he croak. Rest in peace, but I bless in peace and live to one day lay in shoots. Rap over beats and tell wild stories, the mythology mystery. Choke on your own misery, fuck them, we're the wild bunch. Yo, I asked him if this bike could punch. This shit made me lose my lunch. Bro grabbed the rocket, I said chill before he cocked it.